Hello, YouTube. This is Ben Gessel. I'm going to make one more video tonight. Um, this video is going to be called Music Recitals for Kids. What works, what doesn't. And it's for uh, all music teachers, but really kind of zeroing in on uh, the, little kids and more, especially like piano recitals. But this can apply to a number of different kinds of teachers, not just piano. Um, but some of what I'm saying won't apply as much to teen recitals, or certainly the college level and beyond is a different deal as well. So, okay, let's start with just what works. And what the idea is that I'm sure that many of you watching this, especially in the future, will be already aware of a lot of these things already. But it's a good idea for less experienced teachers, especially, to be aware of some of these things. That, and again, I've taught for almost 10 years now, and I've been in charge of um, at least several, if not more, recitals. So it's something I'm getting a bit more comfortable with, more familiar with. So let's just start with the things that will help your recital be a success. The first thing is to print off programs. It's not vital if it's a smaller recital. It's held at someone's home. It's not vital. The more students you have, and the bigger the audience is, the more that program is going to be very helpful to everyone. And the most important things that if you're going to have anything to eat or drink afterward, or any time in the recital, of course, the most important things to remember to have on hand or have someone bring are your paper, plastic, styrofoam, cups, plates, bowls, utensils, all that stuff. Plus something to drink, like water is always great and nice, or something to drink. Most likely something that's quite a little colder, and then something to eat. So with my recitals, I kind of tend to go a little bit more all out. With time, I'll probably scale back a bit, but it's fun to sometimes do something like Easter candy or something. But depending on when or candy canes for kids, something like that. All kinds of things you can do, but the basics are making sure people have what they need to have. Especially paper plates, that sort of cups, that sort of utensils, and napkins. So, of course, when you're talking to folks that are in charge of the venue that you're going to be using, whether that's a home or a church or a school or a music, whatever it is, music stores, recital space. There's other possibilities as well. Make sure that you're very clear with them, and of course polite. That goes without saying, but you could have situations where it's harder to be polite, of course, or you could have situations where it's hard for you to be, well, you just want to be very um, um, clear and just very say things in as few words as possible, kind of thing. We're talking with these folks about scheduling a recital. What often can happen is, well, I found that it's very wise to make sure that you start emailing or communicating with whoever it is well before the recital date, at least 2 months, roughly. Sometimes, depending on what the nature of the recital, it could be something even farther back that you need to. But about 2 months is a good rule of thumb. And for very small recitals held at home, about a month is probably okay. But it's which is something that you can't throw together at the last moment. So just keep that in mind for the younger teachers. Uh, Check, double check, and triple check with all parents about recital dates and times frequently before the recital. Just assume that parents, no matter how responsible or aware of the schedule, whatever, just assume that they're going to be kids. For the purposes of just, everybody's got kids, and what I'm trying to say is everybody's got a gazillion things going on for the most part. And so if you keep reminding them, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, then nothing will fall through the cracks. And keep in mind that email isn't always the preferred method of communicating with these things with some parents. Sometimes it's messages, sometimes it's phone, but just keep that in mind. Get there early, for sure, when the recital happens. Anticipate, now as a teacher, you should be very familiar with your students, so you need to think about beforehand what's likely to happen with every student, and you'll get better at that with time, but you want to anticipate any anxieties and difficulties that students will have if they come up. There are some things you can't do anything about, some things you can. If a student is particularly nervous, it's definitely a good idea to help that student when they're performing, if they're really up against the ropes. You don't want to have a situation where you don't want to have anything traumatic that happens during the recital, especially the younger the student. What works, again, I guess, is the teacher that will help students. You want to do that as a last resort. But yeah, if you have certainly anybody that's 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, they're more sensitive, especially, by all means, if they're really struggling, just help them out for a second. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to make sure that you have people to help clean up after recital. Okay, so again, I'm mentioning some of these things. This is more for the younger kids. It's a little different when you get more advanced. Certainly, there's a point at which no instructor would help a student in that respect. Of course, that goes without saying. Don't expect the same thing from 8-year-olds that you would from 18-year-olds or 28-year-olds. Okay, so when you're up there, this is something I try to remember not to do. Just don't try not to talk too much, and don't force or coerce students to perform if they don't want to perform. Because if it's just a private recital and they've practiced their piece, if they get really nervous, there's no grades involved. There's no. If they don't perform, they don't perform. It's still their choice. Just keep that in mind. You can do whatever you want to do regarding keeping a student or not keeping them. Again, it's the younger the student and the more sensitive the student and whatever. There's only other circumstances, but again, try not to have the same expectations that you would for a little guy, that you would for an adult or a very serious piano student that's in their teens. They're different worlds. So, okay. You want to encourage younger students to say their name and what they're playing, and then remember to bow afterward. These are good things to help students when they get older. But you want to encourage, don't force them. Try not to emphasize anything that's too distracting from the purpose of the student recital. And also help little guys when they're up against the ropes. I mentioned that too. Hopefully some of this is helpful. It's not just common sense. Hopefully some of this is beneficial, for you guys. So there's, of course, things that don't work so well at recitals. One thing is assuming anything that you probably shouldn't assume. Try not to assume anything. Well, what I mean is, it's important to have an awareness. We all do, of what's going to likely to happen at a recital. but by assuming, I mean, try not to be too quick to think that something is going to happen when it doesn't or doesn't happen the way you thought it would. So just be careful with that. Worrying, a more sensitive type, just trying to worry too much about how things are going to go, they'll be fine. Try not to be also too neglectful of how long a recital might go. Try to anticipate how long certain pieces will be and how much the in between time between students. And then, of course, try to avoid long speeches. And then, of course, this goes without saying, try not to have anything negative that occurs to students during the recital. There's a lot more I can say about that. The younger the student, the more sensitive the student, the more that a negative experience is a very big thing. And what I mean by negative, it could be something from some kids are laughing to forgetting their music, or the music was memorized but they can't remember and they break down and cry and run out of the building. Or the parent, they have to deal with a lot of just crazy stuff. It's very difficult for kids to manage all that. Potentially traumatic. So, as a teacher, you want to definitely have that more of a positive experience. But that's a big one. But there's things that are in your control and things that are not. And if something really bad happens, negative happens, it's outside of your control, don't beat yourself up about it. It can happen. I've been pretty fortunate so far. There's still things that could happen in the future. I try to anticipate what those things might be. You never know. But again, if it's outside of your control, there's only so much you can do. Don't try not to feel too bad about it. Most of what teachers do is teach. The recitals are the icing on the cake. But for the student, it's a bigger deal in a way, because it puts them on the spot. It's one of those things that helps them develop the poise to perform publicly, performance. So, and then of course, along with this is with the negative experiences, potentially try to avoid inviting anyone to the recital that is a less agreeable sort of person. This might seem like common sense, but it could be something as and not anticipated as it could be like two grandmas that have some serious personality conflicts. I've never had any experiences like that happen where you have like a fight, an argument that erupts, but I'm just letting you know it could happen, and you can pretty much fill in the blanks as to what would be the cause of a arguments in that regard, or anything else. If someone that comes in that's very smelly for whatever reason, and people don't like it, you have all kinds of things that can happen. So just try to be aware of some of these things. And a lot of things are very forgivable or understandable. So, but okay, as a teacher, you're in charge of who's there. You can just say just students and parents. You can include other people. Just be very, very careful about who you invite. So that I want to keep this video not too long, but again, for teachers that are watching this, feel free to comment back on any thoughts you have. But I try to have recitals a very enjoyable experience for everyone. And there's a lot of things I do that a lot of teachers don't do as much of. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.